DocTalk is brought to you by MERCK Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk today. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. Today's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about Cattle Trace, which is a new cattle traceability system that's been started here in Kansas that's expanding beyond. My guest, Matt Teagarden. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Kansas Livestock Association, and he has been directly involved with this new cattle traceability platform. You're not going to want to miss it.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
If my calves start healthy and stay healthy, I've got a good shot at making money. That is why I trust Colostrix. It gives my calves the protection they need until their own immune systems kick in.
Calf raisers trust Colostrix colostrum supplements. Colostrix is USDA licensed and proven effective. When your money is on the line, trust Colostrix.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families and rural Kansas for more than 100 years, and we're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau health plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We have a special guest here today. We have Mr. Matt Teagarden, and Matt is the CEO or Chief Executive Officer of the Kansas Livestock Association here in Kansas, and it's awesome to have you here. I know how busy you are. Take time out and to spend with us. Matt and I have known each other for years. He has been someone that has been a leader within our state and within our nation. And if you knew the service that he provides for our beef industry, it's pretty humbling to have him come spend time with us here on the show. So we appreciate it very, very much. We're here to talk about a new initiative that is pretty exciting here that started in the state of Kansas. Obviously, it's moving on, but it's called Cattle Trace. Can you tell us a little bit about Cattle Trace?
You bet. Thanks for having me, Dan, and that introduction is way over the top, but thanks for that, and thanks for the chance to visit about Cattle Trace a little bit. It is an animal disease traceability project that started here in Kansas and really started with some policy changes made at the KLA convention. Our members in 2017 changed our traceability policy. And what it led to was a real focus on let's make some progress on animal disease traceability, and in particular the fed cattle supply. We have the Animal Disease Traceability ADT program focused on older cattle, primarily dairy cattle, but really wanting to address that gap we saw in the fed cattle supply and the traceability of that fed cattle supply. So we have great partners, KLA working, the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Kansas State University, and maybe most importantly, a lot of individual producers, feed yards, auction markets, cow-calf producers, stocker operators that have an interest in this, and we're all working together.
Yeah, it seems like a really solid group of people that are looking at all the different angles, and the need for it is there's multiple needs, but we're focusing on disease.
That's correct. Disease traceability, and so what that does, I think that's important for producers. We have some research that shows that's what they're that they want a minimal amount of data that's shared with folks, and so that's what we're focusing on. Animal ID, date and time when an animal is sighted, so they move through an auction market or to a feed yard or to the packer. And then a GPS location. So we've got 4 data points. That's all that Cattle Trace is interested in. We think that is sufficient to accomplish the traceability that we need from an animal health official perspective to be able to trace animals in the case of a disease outbreak.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about how the program is involved, or what is involved with it. But we have about 30 seconds before commercial. What would be the number one? What are some of the diseases that would be important for tracing?
So the one that we talk about a lot is foot and mouth disease,
right?
And that's kind of the most the biggest impact, the potential for the largest financial impact, animal health impact, those kinds of things. So that's one of the diseases that we talk about and recognize the need for better traceability. But we also have other diseases of interest, tuberculosis and others, where those TB tracebacks are happening all the time, most of the time in the background. We don't know it, but they're happening all the time. We think this system will enhance our ability to do those tracebacks.
Man, that'd be great. Folks, more to come with Mr. Matt Teagarden. We're here on Doc Talk. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, thanks for joining me on today's Cattle First Minute, as sponsored by Behringer Engelheim Vet Medica. When we start to think about breeding season and turning bulls out, the one thing I can't emphasize enough is to get a breeding soundness exam done on your bulls before turnout. And some of the things that can happen during the winter, whether it's frostbite in certain areas of the body, or there's things that can happen that will cause a bull to become infertile, are things that you need to make sure. The other thing that's very important on a breeding soundness exam is we have to make sure that we don't have lameness or issues with the feet, because no wheels, no calves. So making sure that we have a sound bull structurally, making sure that we have one that's fertile and one that can produce enough sperm and enough volume with enough motility with no defects in the sperm is vitally important to making sure every year before you turn out to ensure that you get a calf crop, at least from the bull's point of view.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Practical, profitable genetics. It's not just a slogan, but our expectation for every Dale Banks bull we market. They won't be a one-trait wonder, but they will offer optimum levels of the most predictable genetics in the industry today. They'll be developed on forage, backed by decades of data, fertility tested, foot scored, and freeze branded. We'll sell 150 yearling and coming 2-year-old bulls in our Practical, Profitable Genetics bull sale on Saturday, November 23rd at the ranch near Eureka, Kansas. For information, call the Perriers at 620-583-4305 or dalebanks.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Matt Teagarden, who is the CEO of the Kansas Livestock Association, and we're visiting about a new, exciting program called Cattle Trace, which is a traceability program that focuses on disease control here in the United States. And before we get into the technology, one of the things that as I travel globally in the beef supply chain and work with some of the retailers that I work with, we're one of the few countries that does not have a traceability program. And when I was sitting with a gentleman from Kenya, and he was talking about their traceability program in Kenya, wanting to know why we don't have one, it was kind of hard to answer that.
Yep.
And so I'm excited and I'm thankful that we're taking this on. Talk to me a little bit about what's involved.
Yeah, so, and that's a key point. I think of the major beef exporting countries around the world, we're the only country without a significant traceability system. And that's one of the reasons that KLA members were interested in making this a priority and getting something off the ground. Our focus in Cattle Trace is that one of the principles is that it operates at the speed of commerce. Our marketing system, the way we move cattle from all parts of the country where we can run cows, move those cattle from the southeast or the west or north of here, wherever it is, and then move them more to the central part of the country and maybe graze, background, and ultimately feed those cattle.
Yep. That
marketing system has to function quickly and efficiently, and we can't, some of the previous efforts, I think, the drawback would have been slowing that process down and trying to one at a time cattle through an auction market or something like that. So this speed of commerce issue was a priority for us as we looked at options of how to set up the system. That led us to select the ultra high frequency tag technology. Those tags, we compare it to the turnpike here in Kansas. The Kansas Turnpike uses readers up above, and you can blast down the highway at 75 mile an hour, or maybe a little faster if you choose to. But go down the highway, and that reader catches the tag on your windshield, and it knows you went through that toll gate. And now we're not going 80 mile an hour through auction markets, but we want to keep that speed of commerce flowing. So that UHF technology allows cattle to go by down an alley and be read an alley at a time. And I think that's a real key, in particular, as we move cattle through auction markets, but also at the feed yard, going like a drover's alley kind of set up at the feed yard. That's really important to maintain that speed of commerce.
Yep, and we see it too with, as veterinarians, when we're checking animals in and checking animals out of sale barns, instead of having to go read and put an animal through a chute and read that metal tag, if I can shoot that animal with a reader in the pen, it just decreases the wear and tear on the animals that we're selling. So we always think about the feeder cattle, but there are so many cows and bulls that are shipped around this country that almost makes it even better for me when I start to think about lameness and preventing injuries of having that type of program.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Folks, this is a great program. We're lucky to have Matt Teagarden here with us today. More after these messages.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about employee safety and work comp coverage. On your farm, do you ask your friends to come help? Are they considered employees or neighbors helping neighbors? Did you know that you can be held responsible just as if it's a work comp accident? Give me a call, we can discuss. 316-945-6733.
Kansans have a new choice for Medicare supplement insurance plans. With Medicare supplement insurance plans from Kansas Farm Bureau, you have access to 4 levels of coverage, affordable rates, and service from an organization that served Kansans for more than 100 years. For more information on Kansas Farm Bureau Medicare supplement plans, including rates and to apply, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Earlier in my life, I rode bucking horses and rodeos, and my shoulders took such a beating, and that was probably the reason for having several previous surgeries on both shoulders. About a year ago, I decided that I didn't want to have another surgery. And so I contacted Kansas Regenerative Medicine, took their treatment process. It was relatively pain-free. Now, after 8 months, my shoulders have healed to the point where I think I'm probably 90 to 95% of normal. It takes a couple of months to start to see results with stem cell injections, but at about 3 to 3.5 months, I started to feel better. I started to have less pain and feel real progress. That continued to increase gradually until now at approximately 8 months. And I'm extremely pleased. I've got full range of motion. I can lift weights, I can throw, I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do without a lot of pain previously.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Matt Teagarden, who is our CEO of the Kansas Livestock Association and spends a lot of time outside the state of Kansas as well. But when we talk about cattle trace, it's not, this isn't a government operation. You know, it's one of those things that we always had kind of the fear of the old traceability. I'm from the government and I'm here to help you type of mentality. And this is taking it to a private level to assure anonymity and privacy for producers.
Yes, that follows KLA policy with a focus on private entities managing the information. Some research that NCBA did to kind of get a better picture of where producer attitudes towards traceability and what some of the things were that would make them reluctant to adopt a traceability system, and having some protection from government, and we work every day with animal health officials here in the state and at USDA, but having some separation there is really important. So Cattle Trace is a separate entity. It's a private entity that is managed by a producer board of directors, 5 members today from Kansas. Very soon we'll have directors from other states on that board, but those are the folks, cow-calf producers, auction market operators, feed yard operators, that are making the decisions about how Cattle Trace will operate, how will function, who can get access to the database, the information contained in the database. Producers are making those decisions, and I think for me, certainly from a KLA perspective and our members, I think that gives our members, I think will give all cattle producers a lot of comfort that it's their colleagues making the decisions about the database, who gets access to it and when, versus a government entity, either whether it's in Topeka or Manhattan or Washington, D.C. I think that private aspect of that is really popular with producers.
I think it is, and I like as I've studied this and looked at it, I really appreciate the people that you have on that board, but also there's kind of a step-by-step guideline of, hey, what are important things and what are unimportant things that producers, as they sign in and as they log in, everything's transparent. Yep. It's right here for you. So, and we all understand the importance of anonymity, liability, things to that nature. So we're taking it serious, but we also understand that if we want to move forward as an industry and we want to compete against other protein sources, we've got to take the next step.
Yeah, and I think that's really key. We need confidentiality, producer privacy, but we also need a system that works. I mean, you know, if we could have it really private, really confidential, if it didn't do animal disease traceability, that we'd be wasting our time. So I think we've found that right balance. Relying on that producer board of directors, I think certainly gives me comfort. I think gives many of our members comfort that we've found that right balance and have a system that'll work.
Folks, it's called Cattle Trace. It's something that we need to get on board with. It's something that we need to participate in. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how it's expanding beyond the state of Kansas in something that's going to help this beef industry continue to grow. With Matt Teagarden, we'll be right back.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer it and work with you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Matt Teagarden. Matt is the Chief Executive Officer of the Kansas Livestock Association. And now how long have you been CEO?
5 years.
My goodness gracious, it just, time flies. But he's been in so many different service positions within the state, helping the beef industry, and we're fortunate to have him at the helm providing the leadership. And this is just another example, Cattle Trace, and you're helping not only Kansas, but this is starting to expand. I mean, I know you have a lot of feedlots and a lot of producers in Kansas that are involved, but now you're expanding into
other states. That's right, Dan. And when we started talking about this project, we thought we were extremely well positioned to test some things and have some learnings with the significance of the beef industry in Kansas, the fact that we have all segments represented in Kansas, from seed stock, cow-calf producers, all the way through feed yards to the packer. We have all of those represented in Kansas. So we thought we'd be a good test spot to get this started, but recognizing from the very beginning that long term, we would not be successful if it was just a Kansas program. That it needs to be other states. We import millions of head of cattle from other states into Kansas each year, and so we have had conversations with other states, Washington State, Oregon, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky. Those are some of the other states where we have readers in place, where we are reading tags and getting data, that movement data, into the Cattle Trace database. And we're talking to other states. I think I'm really encouraged by the support we're getting, the interest we're getting from producers in other states, the animal health officials in other states, the state cattlemen's or livestock associations in those other states desire to work together to advance traceability. I think it's really key. It's been identified as a key in the beef industry long-range plan. When we talk to export customers, when we talk to retailers, food service establishments, it's an issue. It's one I think we're in the best position to solve, not relying on government, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yep, and not only are you expanding into other states, there's the potential with the technology that you're using to expand it into supply chain information from the ground up.
That's right. The animal disease traceability piece, I compare it to insurance. We want insurance, we don't want to have to use it, right? Life insurance especially, I suppose. But the real value of the tags and the readers and that technology will be in the value-added components. And the things that we can do from an inventory management, an animal health management, sharing information between segments, learning more about the cattle. So if I'm a cow-calf producer, I can make more informed breeding decisions and raise calves that better fit the feed yard, or better fit the packer, or better fit the consumer, or hopefully all of those. And I think that's where the real value of this system is going to be, and where it becomes not a cost, but real value. It puts dollars back in the pockets of cattle producers.
Yep. Well, I commend you. And again, sometimes paying it forward is an investment, not a cost. And we want to have our children have a beef industry in the future. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching Doc Talk. Remember, if you want to know more about what we do, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. With Matt Teagarden, I'm Dan Thomson, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance. From AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
Doc Talk was brought to you by MERCK Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at KFRM.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Practical, profitable genetics. It's not just a slogan, but our expectation for every Dale Banks bull we market. They won't be a one-trait wonder, but they will offer optimum levels of the most predictable genetics in the industry today. They'll be developed on forage, backed by decades of data, fertility tested, foot scored, and freeze branded. We'll sell 150 yearling and coming 2-year-old bulls in our Practical, Profitable Genetics bull sale on Saturday, November 23rd at the ranch near Eureka, Kansas. For information, call the Perriers at 620-583-4305 or dalebanks.com.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.